Hi guys, and welcome to the Okie Dokies crochet tutorial for creating your very own shark. My name is Haley and I'm so excited to be crocheting with you guys today. If you are a beginner and are new to any of our stuff and you need some help, feel free to check out any of the other videos on our page. We have them all up above or on YouTube. Alright, some of the stitches you will need to know for this pattern are a single crochet, a increase, decrease, a half double crochet, a double crochet decrease, and a half double crochet decrease, as well as a chain and a magic ring alternative. If you're new to any of those stitches, we have tutorials for all of them just above this video on this page or in the tutorials page on our website. If you're using the Okie Dokies crochet kit, here are all the materials that you will be getting to make your very own shark. You can get a crochet hook, we've got some yarn needles, stitch marker, we've got 3 different colors of yarn, we've got the blue, white, and black. We've got stuffing, and the safety eyes are also included. And additionally, you will need some scissors for this project. Alright, feel free to make any adjustments that you need to make to the pattern as far as placements or anything like that go, and don't be afraid to show us your final products at the end. Alright, let's dive right in. Alright, to start the shark head, we're going to start with our magic ring alternative. So when I do it, I like to start by making an X with the yarn across my fingers, so that the working yarn is going back and into my hand, and then the tail is right here. And then we're just gonna put our hook underneath that part, grab the working yarn, pull it under, and then twist to create a loop. And then we're gonna grab the working yarn again and pull through one more time. Now using your index finger, hold the loop nice and tight. Release this, pull on that yarn tail just gently. And now you've created a slip knot and a chain 1. So now we're going to yarn over and pull through again to create a chain 2. And then working into this second chain from the hook, not the one right here, but this one, we're going to work 8 single crochets. So insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, so you have 2. Yarn over and pull through both. All right, 7 more times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, go ahead and place your stitch marker. And now round 2, we're gonna do 8 increases. So an increase, remember, is just 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, move that stitch marker. All right, now round 3, we're gonna do a single crochet and then an increase, and we're repeating that 8 times. So single, increase number 1, single, increase number 2, single, increase number 3, single, increase number 4, single, increase number 5, single, increase number 6, single, increase number 7, single, increase number 8. All right, move that stitch marker in. Okay, round 4, we're doing 2 single crochets and an increase, repeating it 8 times. So 1, 2, increase, 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 1, 2, increase. All right, move that stitch marker. All right, round number 5, we're doing 3 single crochets and an increase, repeating it 8 times. So 1, 2, 3, increase, 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 1, 2, 3, increase. Move that stitch marker. All right, rounds 6 through 10, we're doing 40 single crochets around. So let's get started. Round 6 on 40 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. Alright, move that stitch marker up. Now we'll move on to round 7, same thing, 40 single crochets. Alright, make sure to flip your piece as you go so you have the right side facing out. So this yarn tail should be on the inside. Move that stitch marker. Right, and then round 8, we're doing the same thing, 40 single crochets. I went one too far. Alright, round number 9, we're doing the same thing, 40 single crochets. right, and round number 10, we're gonna do the same thing, 40 single crochets. All right, so before we do the last stitch of round number 10, so you should have 1 stitch left, you're going to insert your hook and yarn over with your blue and then stop right there. And we're gonna grab our butter biscuit yellow yarn and we're gonna take it and loop it over the end of our hook like this. And then pull it through both blue lips to make that color change for this round. All right, go ahead and cut the blue yarn off. We will not be using it anymore. And then just to secure it in place, I like to, you don't have to do this, but I like to just kind of tie a knot, not super tight, but enough that those two are gonna stay. They're not gonna unravel. Make sure to move your stitch marker up. And we're gonna do rounds 11 and 12 are both just 40 single crochets still, but now we're working with our butter biscuit yellow yarn. So just continue crocheting as you normally would, and now you'll see that color change. All right, move that stitch marker. And round 12, again, 40 single crochets. And because we're working in rounds, it's totally normal to have that look where it doesn't exactly match up. All right, go ahead and move that stitch marker up. All right, for round 13, we're going to start with 12 single crochets. So we're just going to start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, now we are going to do 8 double crochet decreases. So I'm going to run through just a very basic tutorial of how to do this stitch, but if you want a little more in-depth tutorial, you can easily find one on our page, but for now we're just going to do our 8 double crochet decreases. So to start, you're going to start yarn by yarn over. You're going to insert your hook into the stitch, bring up a loop. So now you have 3 loops on your hook. And we're going to yarn over and we're going to pull through 2 loops. So now we have 2 loops on our hook. And then we're going to yarn over and we're going to insert our hook into the next stitch. Pull up a loop. Now you have 4 on there. And then you're going to yarn over, pull through 2. So now you have 3 on there. And then you yarn over and pull through all 3. And that is our double crochet decrease. So we're going to do 8 of those. Three. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, and we're going to finish off the yarn or the round with 12 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, go ahead and move that stitch marker up. All right, round number 14, we're going to start with doing 2 single crochets and then a decrease, and we're going to repeat that twice. So 1, 2, I'm just doing a regular invisible decrease for this one, but you can do whatever kind of decrease. If you want to just do a regular decrease, that's totally fine. All right, next step is we're going to do 2 double crochets and then a half double crochet decrease. And we're going to repeat those two things 4 times. So let's start with our 2 double crochets. So again, for a double crochet, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop so you have 3 on there, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. We're going to do another double crochet. All right, and then for our half double crochet decreases, we're going to yarn over, and we're going to insert our hook into the stitch and bring up a loop so you have 3 on your hook. And then we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the next stitch and bring up a loop. So now you have 5 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 5. All right, now we're going to go back to 2 double crochets. 1, 2, and then a half double crochet decrease. Okay, 2. 2 more double crochets. Half double crochet decrease. All right, and our last time with this, so 2 double crochets. 1, 2, and then a half double crochet decrease. All right, to finish off the round, and we're going to go back to our 2 single crochets and a decrease, and we're going to repeat that twice. Oops. One, 2, decrease, 1, 2, if you struggle getting it through the front loops, just be patient. You'll get there. It can be tricky to get through, but okay, perfect. All right, move that stitch marker. All right, at this point I'm gonna add a little bit of stuffing just because we're starting to get kind of small right here, so I wanna make sure that we can stuff it before we get too close to closing it off. So let's grab some stuffing. And remember, when you're stuffing your piece, you want to put it in the middle, but you don't want to leave it there. You want to stick your fingers in and push it to the outsides so that there's like a hole in the middle. Grab more stuffing. And that's how you correctly stuff your amigurumis. We don't want to overstuff it. So I like to kind of get the stuffing in first, and then we're going to place the safety eyes, just because I like to see what it looks like with the stuffing in before I decide on my final placement for the safety eyes. So the front of our shark is going to be where we did those half double crochet and double crochet decreases. So you can kind of see it's a little different right there. So that's going to be the front of the shark. So we're just gonna kind of go straight up from there, and it's kind of up to you on where you want the eye placement. So I'm going 1 row above our color change. So I'm going like between rounds 9 and 10-ish, but just somewhere around those. That's kind of where I like to put mine. And then you want to go about 8 stitches apart. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we're going to put the other one in. And then before I throw the backs on, I like to just kind of make sure that it's like even with those two. So I got to kind of adjust mine a little bit. So I'm just going to move it like 2 stitches to the left or over to make it even. Go 1. So that's why I like to do it with the stuffing in, so that way you can really see like the shape of your shark. Otherwise, I mean, you could do it without the stuffing, but it's really easy to do it with the stuffing because then you just kind of see the shape. And I'm actually just going to go 1 more stitch apart for the 2 eyes, so 9 stitches apart. That way it's like really on either side of this. Yeah, I think that's where I like it for this guy. And then let's go ahead. I know you just spent a ton of time stuffing it, but we're just gonna unstuff it. At this point you have the right amount of stuffing to go in the head. But go ahead and slide the safety eyes on, or the backs on the safety eyes. Then restuff the head. Obviously you can do the safety eyes before you stuff it too, like you can do it in whatever order you want, but it is very helpful to place your eyes with the stuffing in, that way you can kind of see where everything goes. And obviously, it's your shark, you can place them wherever you want. You don't have to follow the exact placement I did. But so right now it's probably a little loosely stuffed. You know, this is a little lighter than I would like, but that's okay because we don't want to overstuff it right now or else doing more rounds will be hard. So let's just keep going on our rounds and we'll just continue to add more stuffing as we go. So round 15, we're just going to do 2 single crochets and a decrease, and we're just going to repeat that all the way around. So 1, 2, decrease, 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 1, 2, decrease. Alrighty. Let's move that stitch marker up. then I'm just going to keep adding just little bits of stuffing as we keep going, just to make sure we get the correct amount of stuffing in there. So just, like I said, just in little bits. We don't want to over stuff. Perfect. I like that much better. All right, let's keep going. Whoops. All right, round 16 is just going to be a single crochet and a decrease. We're repeating that all the way around for a total of 6 times. So single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease, last one, single, decrease. All right, at this point I like to just take the stitch marker completely out. I think it makes it a little bit easier to do this last round without it, but you can leave it in if you need it. All right, round 17, we're just doing 6 decreases. So for this one, just because it gets kind of tight, I'm just switching back to a regular decrease. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right, to leave a little bit of a yarn tail, we're going to need kind of a big one because we're going to be sewing the head to the body. Go ahead and pull that through. And then if you want to, you can close up this hole at the end by just taking a yarn needle, and you're going to just sew through the front loops of every stitch, or you can just leave it open because this is going to be, that's where the body is going to sit, is right over that hole, so it's not going to be seen. So if you don't want to bother with closing that hole up, you don't have to yet. All right, let's move on, and we're going to still work with our white yarn, and we are going to be making the body of our shark. All right, to start, we're going to do our magic ring alternative. And we're going to do 8 single crochets in it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, we're going to go ahead and place our stitch marker. All right, for round number 2, we're just doing 8 increases. It's always hard to get it into the very first stitch, especially into both loops. There we go. Remember, an increase is 2 single crochets in the same stitch. There we go. Apparently I did my magic ring alternative very tight. It's very hard to get into those stitches. Two. Three. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. Right, move that stitch marker. All right, round number 3, we're going to be doing a single crochet and then an increase, and we're going to repeat that 8 times. So single, then an increase, 1, single, increase 2, single, increase 3, single, increase 4, single, increase 5, single, increase 6, single, increase 7, single, increase 8. Right, move that stitch marker. All right, round number 4, we're going to do 2 single crochets and then an increase, and we're repeating it 8 times. So 1, 2, increase, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120, 121, 1, 2, increase, 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 1, 2, increase. Move that stitch marker up. All right, and then rounds 5, 6, 7, and 8, we're just doing 32 single crochets. But to start, we're going to switch over to our blue yarn to start these single crochets. So go ahead and grab the blue. All right, and then remember when we color change, so we're just going to start on this round because it's a little easier because it's just single crochets. So we're going to insert our hook. We're going to pull up a loop with our white yarn. And then we're going to grab our blue yarn. And then we're going to pull the blue yarn through. And then you're just going to continue single crocheting with the blue yarn instead of the white. Again, we're doing 32 single crochets all the way around. If you want a smaller belly portion of your shark, you're totally able to switch the color sooner, or if you want a bigger belly, you can switch it later. That's totally up to you. This is just when I like to switch it, so. All right, so when you finish with your 32 single crochets, you'll have one little spot that's still white, and that's just from us starting this round with the color change. If you want to, on the previous round that we worked on, like the round before the next color, you can do that color change. But it's totally up to you no matter what, because we're working in rounds, it's going in a spiral, it's not going to line up perfectly. So you will have a little spot that's a little off like that. So just know that that's totally normal. Go ahead and move the stitch marker up. And then just because we did do a color change, I like to cut my white yarn off because we're done with our white for the body of the shark. And then I like to take the yarn tail from the blue and the yarn tail from the white, not the working yarn of the blue, just the little yarn tails. And I like to just kind of tie them in a knot. This is just for my own peace of mind. It just helps me know that like they're not going to come undone right there, and just it kind of just helps me feel better that they're gonna stay together. And then they're kind of out of the way, they're already tied together, so if they are getting in your way, you can totally cut them shorter because we tied them together. So they're not gonna start unraveling or anything if they're too short. So then we're gonna start round 6, and again we're just doing our 32 single crochets with our blue yarn. So as you get started on those, you can kind of see where it's a little off right there. But it's totally okay, totally normal. You didn't mess anything up. That's just what happens when you color change when we're working in rounds. Right, move the stitch marker up. At this point, your piece will probably start to curl just a little bit. It's not going to start like fully curling yet. So just make sure that as you're working that you have the right side facing out. So the beginning yarn tail should be in the middle like this, not on the outside. All right, let's start round 7 with our 32 single crochets. Move your stitch marker. All right, round number 8 is going to be our last time with 32 single crochets all the way around. So let's get going. All right. Move that stitch marker up. All right. Round number 9, we're going to be doing 2 single crochets and then a decrease. We're going to repeat it 8 times. Total of 24 stitches on this round. So 1, 2. Again, I'm doing my invisible decrease, but do whatever kind of decrease you feel comfortable with. One, 2, decrease, 1, 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 2, decrease. All right, move that stitch marker. All right, round number 10, we're just doing 24 single crochets around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Move that stitch marker. Right, round 11, we're doing the same thing, 2 single crochets and then a decrease, but this time we're repeating it only 6 times. So 1, 2, 1, 2, decrease, 1, 2, decrease, 1, 2, decrease, 1, 2, decrease, 1, 2, decrease. Move that stitch marker. All right, round number 12, we're doing 18 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Move that stitch marker. At this point, we're going to start stuffing again. So with this one, it's a little trickier because we're like working on the tail part of it. So right now, we're stuffing the little body. And then as we continue crocheting the tail, we're gonna keep stuffing, but we don't wanna have to try and fill the body part with stuffing as well. So just keep that in mind. We're not totally done. We're just simply stuffing the body. Remember, push it to the outsides. Especially like make sure that because you don't want to just stuff it like this, pushing it down that way, because then this is going to be flat. We want our shirt to have a little bit of a belly. So pick it up at some points and just continue to stuff them all the way through. Perfect. All right, let's keep going. Round 13, we're doing a single crochet and then a decrease, and we're repeating that 6 times. So single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease. Move the stitch marker. Okay, round. Oops, I'm not taking it out. Okay, round 14, we're just doing 12 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. At this point, I'm just going to take the stitch marker out and just make sure that I'm counting my stitches. It gets kind of hard at this point to leave a stitch marker. So again, we're going to just kind of keep stuffing, like I said. We want to make sure that we have enough to fully stuff the tail part of the shark. So just as you're doing it, just kind of make sure you push it in into the sides. So basically what I'm doing is kind of overstuffing the body just a little bit. We're not like totally overstuffing it, but then that way when we're done, we can kind of move the stuffing around to move it into the tail of the shark. All right. Round 15, we're doing 6 decreases. So again, I'm just doing regular decreases because it gets kind of small. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, and then to finish it off for rounds 16 through 18, we're just doing 6 single crochets. So we're just doing 3 rounds of single crochets. And this just obviously kind of helps give the shark a longer tail. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. go ahead, and you don't need to leave a super long yarn tail for this one, but leave enough because we're gonna sew up the teeny hole right here. So like I said, I overstuffed the tail or the body because we're gonna kind of just move it all and just kind of play with it until you get some stuffing. You don't want it like super stuffed because we want it to kind of sit like flat on the bottom right here. So kind of like just push it down and you'll see it kind of just like that. All right. So how we're gonna finish this off is you're gonna take a yarn needle, and just like how you would finish off any other project, we're just gonna be kind of sewing it through the front loops of all 6 in that final round. So grab your yarn needle and just thread it through. I like to tie a knot with it on the end just because then I don't have to worry about keeping my yarn on the needle. And then, like I said, we're just doing it into the front loops of all 6 of those single crochets. Only the front loops though. You don't want to go into the back loops. You can if you want, but the front loops just kind of give it a little bit of a cleaner look and a little more of a point, which is what we want with the shark tail, is we want it to kind of have a little point to it. So once you go through all 6, you should see that it kind of goes a little more to a point. So then all I do is take my yarn needle and I'm just gonna stick it in to the center right there. And then I'm just gonna pull it out somewhere else on the shark body. Using these fingers, I'm keeping it from like pulling it in like this or whatever. And then you're just gonna cut it off, and that just kind of helps to hide that yarn tail, but then also keeps it secure. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start on the tail fins now. And we're gonna be making 2 of these. So we're gonna start with our magic ring alternative. And we are going to be doing 4 single crochets in the magic ring alternative. 2, 3, and 4. All right, I'm not going to use a stitch marker to make these. They're kind of small, and it's kind of hard to put a stitch marker in, but if you need it or you want it, feel free to do so. It's totally up to you. All right, so for round number 2, we're going to do a single crochet and then an increase, and we're going to repeat that twice. It can be hard to go into the very first stitch, so just be patient. Single, increase, single, and then an increase. All right, round 3, we're doing the same thing. We're doing a single crochet and then an increase, but this time it's repeated 3 times. So single, increase, single, increase, single, increase. All right, at this point I like to flip the fin inside out just to make sure that we're going the right direction. All right, round 4, we're gonna do 2 single crochets and an increase. We're gonna repeat that 3 times. 1, 2, increase, 1, 2, increase, 1, 2, increase. Alright, now depending on what you want your tail to look like, you can stop right here and this can be your fin. You can go one more round. It just kind of depends when you're looking at the body. It depends on how big you want it to be compared to the body. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop mine right there. If you want to go forward and do round 5, you're just gonna do 3 single crochets and an increase. And you're gonna repeat that 3 times. But I'm gonna go ahead and stop after round 4. And I am going to finish mine off with 6 single crochets across the top. Leave a little bit of a yarn tail. You don't need to leave a super long one. And now you have one of the tail fins. Let's go ahead and make the other one. So again, we're starting with a magic ring alternative of 4 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. And then a single crochet and then an increase. And remember, we're doing that twice. Single. And increase. Single. Increase. Right, and then round 3, single crochet and then an increase, but repeating it 3 times. So single, increase, single, increase, and then single, increase. Right, don't forget to flip it. Round 4, 2 single crochets and an increase, repeated 3 times. So 1, 2, increase, 1, 2, increase, 1, 2, increase. Right. And then 6 single crochets across the top. But again, if you want to keep going for another round, you can. It's totally up to you. All right. Okay, now that we have our 2 tail fins, we're going to move on to the fin that goes onto the head of our shark. So we're going to start with our magic ring alternative. And this time we're doing 6 single crochets in it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right. Again, I'm not using a stitch marker just because it's kind of a small piece, but if you want to use one, go for it. All right, round 2, we're going to start with 2 single crochets. So 1, 2, all right, and then we're going to do 3 increases. So 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to end the round with a single crochet. Perfect. I'm going to flip mine right now just so it's a little easier to see. Okay, round number 3, we're going to start with 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, and then another 3 increases. So 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to end with 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. All right, round 4, we're going to start with 5 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 3 increases. So 1, 2, 3. Finish the round off with 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and round 5, we're going to start with 6 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 3 increases again. So 1, 2, 3, and then 6 increases to finish it off. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so you should kind of have this shape. It shouldn't be a perfect cone. So we're gonna go ahead and single crochet it shut. You don't have to add stuffing to this one. I don't recommend it just because we have the yarn tail in there. But if you want it to be a little bigger, then you can totally add some stuffing. It's up to you. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and do 9 single crochets across the top to close it off. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and last one, 9. Okay, leave a bit of a yarn tail. And if your piece is kind of curving in some weird directions, that's totally fine. It's just from single crocheting it shut, and then when we sew it on, it'll fix all of that. So there's the top fin. All right. We're gonna go ahead and get started on the arms and the legs of our shark. So let's get started with the arms. We're gonna do our magic ring alternative. And we're going to do 6 single crochets for this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, again, I'm not using a stitch marker, but feel free to use one. All right, round 2, we're just doing a single crochet and then an increase. We're repeating it 3 times. So, single, increase number 1, single, increase number 2, single, increase number 3. Right. And then rounds 3, 4, and 5, we're just doing 9 single crochets all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Last one, round 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. All right, we're gonna just go ahead and add a tiny bit of stuffing into the arms, kind of pushing it down to like the tips of the arms more. And then you can decide how you want your shark arms. You can either sew it on in a circle like this, or you can single crochet it shut. I'm gonna single crochet it shut just because I like the way that it sits on the shark, but if you don't want to single crochet it shut, you like sewing it on in a circle, totally fine. It's definitely easier to sew it on if it's single crocheted shut, so if you're not confident in your sewing abilities, single crochet it shut. You just do about 4 or 5 single crochets across the top. As long as it's nice and closed, you're fine. All right, let's go ahead and make our second arm. So again, we're starting with our magic ring alternative with 6 single crochets in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and round 2, single crochet, and then an increase, repeating it 3 times. So single, increase number 1, single, increase number 2, single, increase number 3. All right, remember to flip. And then again, rounds 3, 4, and 5, just 9 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And last round, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Remember to just get a little stuffing. You really don't need a lot, just tiny bit to just kind of pack in there. Just give it a little more of a shape. And then, like I said, I'm single crocheting them shut, but you don't have to. Right. And the last part of making our shark is the legs. So we're going to start with our magic ring alternative. Whoops. And we're going to be doing 6 single crochets to start that one. 3, 4, 5, 6, right. Round 2, we're going to be doing 6 increases. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Remember to flip it. Right, and then rounds 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 are just 12 single crochets around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, round 4, 12 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then round 5, 12 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, round 6, 12 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Round 7, last round, 12 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, go ahead and just add stuffing to the leg. And then again, if you want to sew in a circle, you can, but I am in a single crochet this shut with 6 single crochets. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, and last part of the shark, our second leg. So magic ring alternative, 6 single crochets for it. 3, 4, 5, and 6. Round 2, 6 increases. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right. And then round 3, 12 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Round 4, 12 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Round 5, 12 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, round 6, 12 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, and round 7, last round, 12 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Right. Remember to just add a little stuffing. Then 6 single crochets to close it up. And there you have all the shark pieces. All right, now we have all of the pieces of our shark made. It is time to start sewing them all together. So when I make the shark, I like to start by sewing the head onto the body, just because then it kind of helps me know where to place everything, and just I like it better. But if you feel more comfortable sewing other parts on first, go for it. Totally up to you. As long as you get all the parts onto the shark, that's what matters. So we're going to attach the yarn tail from the head onto a needle. And then when I'm deciding where to position it, obviously I want the eyes with the belly. And then when I'm doing it, I want it a little more forward like this, so it's not like back like that. We want this circle kind of like right on the top, and then like a couple rows back. Like that is kind of how you want the shark on both sides. If you have like knitting needles, it's super helpful when you're sewing it on to stick a needle, like a knitting needle through it to hold it together, or something to help hold it on. But we do not have that. And if you're just using the kit, obviously it's not in the kit, so we're just gonna do it as we are. So as I'm kind of positioning it, luckily the body is just kind of one piece. There's not really a top or a bottom. I like to put the color change on the bottom because then it's kind of hidden a little bit more. Or you could put it up kind of by the top where there would be arms. So I'm gonna put it at the bottom just to kind of, so I know where I'm putting stuff. So then I'm gonna go up here and we're just gonna attach the head onto the body. Just with one stitch first like that. And then once you have it kind of on like that, you can see where it's going. This is definitely the hardest part, is sewing this on. Everything else is super easy to sew on. So then, like I said, just kind of position it how you want it, and then I like to hold it there and then just like go up through the head again. And you're just gonna have to kind of keep repositioning it. You can like put it against your body too, or the table. Definitely use something to help you. Don't just try and hold it in one hand. It can be challenging, but you'll get the hang of it. And luckily, this is such a small little thing that, you know, you can just kind of, you can move it really easily even when it's partway sewn on. So you can kind of just keep manipulating it as you go. So don't stress too much. You can always undo it. So don't stress too much over it. And just make sure that you're liking the positioning as you're going around. But this is your shark, so you can sew its head in whatever way you want. But this is just how I'm doing it. And then I like to go around twice just because we don't want a bobblehead shark. So I like to go around twice, and just especially the first time, you know, you're kind of trying to make sure that its head sits how you want it. And then the second time is more for like to secure it on. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. That's just something, that's just a preference that I have. I don't want to have a totally bobbleheaded shark. I want it to stay on, especially if you're making it as like a gift for a little kid. Obviously you want it to be durable. So just do what you want to do with it. Sew them up, make them so cute. And like I said, this is definitely the most time-consuming and hardest sewing of the whole entire project. So don't get overwhelmed. Doing great. All right. I'm just gonna keep going. There we go. Sometimes it just gets a little stuck. All right. Alright, and once you feel like you've got a nice sturdy, once you feel like you've got it nice sewn on, it's in the position you want it, it looks adorable. I like to just, like I do with most of my projects, stick the yarn needle in, pull it out just in a random spot. That way it just doesn't come out as easily. But that's also why I went around a couple times, and you just go in and out a lot. Definitely helps with the unravel, like with it preventing it from coming apart. All right. Once you have the head on the shark, it is time to start on the legs and the rest of the body parts on it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start with the arms and the legs. That way it can we kind of help our little shark sit a little bit better. So let's start with a leg. Actually, we're gonna start with the arms. Changed my mind. The arms are the easiest to place besides the tail fins. The arms are really easy, so we're just gonna place them right where the head and body connect. So we're literally placing them like right along this line. And I single crocheted mine shut, obviously, but if you didn't, just sew it in a circle. So mine are gonna kind of sit. You don't have to sew it right in there, like in that little crevice right there, but that is where I'm gonna sew mine. And I'm gonna kind of go like kind of straight down from the eye and then over a stitch is where I'm gonna be starting mine. And we're going from the inside out. So make sure that you do it right like that. So we're going inside out just to make sure that we're not getting them too close to the middle. We want to see its belly. And like I said, it's easier to sew it in or to sew it on if it's just a line of single crochets. But if you don't like the look of that, you're totally welcome to sew it in a circle. If you want a little more of a challenge, you can sew it in a circle. Do whatever you want. It's your shark. When I'm sewing it on, I do more of a whip stitch approach, but you can do whatever kind of stitch you want. Whatever you feel the most comfortable with, or you feel looks the best. Up to you. Just make sure you go into all of those single crochets that we made. And then, like I normally do, bring it out somewhere random on the body. Doesn't matter if it goes out into a different color. Like this one's kind of in the white because we're just cutting it off anyways and tucking it into the body, so it doesn't have to go blue into blue. All right, if you're following along with me, your arm should look kind of like this. Yes, it's gonna stick up. We want our little happy shark. We don't want it to be sad, so it is gonna kind of stick up a little like that, but it's so cute. So we're gonna go ahead and grab the other arm. And then kind of the same starting point, we're gonna go down from the eye and then over a stitch. So wherever you want that to be, that's where we're starting. Remember, inside out. So you can see that when I'm sewing this one on, based on the angle that it's going, this one is gonna go angled down. And if it's flipped the other way, like if it's in like that, it's gonna angle up. So we want it to angle up. So what we're actually gonna do with this arm is we're gonna have to go work our way in so that we can have the right angle so that he angles up. So that one takes it's a little difficult. You just have to kind of line where you want it, hold it in place. What I like to do is take an extra needle and just stick it through like that, so it's in the body and the arm, like that, and it keeps it in place while you sew it. So it's super helpful, and then you don't have to worry about like losing your place or whatever. You just start sewing. It holds it in place. Definitely one of my favorite crochet hacks. Especially if you're new to sewing stuff on, it's really helpful because then you're not focused on if you're new to sewing in general, you're not trying to hold it and learn how to sew. It's very helpful. Definitely helped me out a lot when I was a beginner. Right, remember, go through every single crochet that we made on the arm. Then pull it out again, somewhere random on the body. And now we have our happy shark. All right. Up next, I'm going to do the legs. Just kind of looks like a ghost right now, so we're going to do the legs so that it can sit, and that'll be helpful for sewing the fins on. So let's grab a leg. All right, and we kind of want to position it in the same way as the arms. You don't want it to be totally on the sides. We want it to kind of be in the middle. So I actually like to line it up with the arm and have it kind of in line. And then you want to start it right at the bottom of the belly. That's where you want to start from. So kind of just like the bottom corners of the belly is where you're going. And then just remember, we're just sewing in a straight line, which is kind of hard because you can't follow a line or else your leg's gonna go up. So if you need to, hold the leg in position while you sew it, put a needle, whatever helps you so that it's exactly where you want it to be. And then I finish off all my other sewing stuff. You guys know the drill. I always leave too long of yarn tails on accident, but it always helps. All right, and once you have one leg on, you can kind of see the vision. If you want it to be a little more forward, you can, but I want mine more out to the sides. But totally up to you. You can sew it on again. Your shark, you do what you want to do. Let's grab the other leg. Attach it to the yarn needle. All right. And then remember, we want the leg facing up, so we want it to curve upwards like this leg. And I'm just gonna try and make it as even in placement with this other leg as I can, but oh yeah. Even I forgot what we were supposed to do. We're starting outside and going in on this one. So just kind of place it where you want it. And then I like to flip it up like this because that's more how we're sewing it, and then stick a needle in it because that's more the direction that we're sewing it on in. So anyways, then we're just gonna start sewing. You can kind of mimic the angle of this leg, like you can kind of see what angle it's at and kind of try and match it the best you can over on this other side. But just make sure that if you are sewing it on upside down like I am, that you're going through both the front loops and the back loops of the single crochets that we did across the top. So with this one, I don't like to take the needle out until I am like totally done, just because I don't want it to flop over. I want it to stay over here while I finish this little line of stitching. And then when I'm done, I'll pull it out and just kind of like make sure I got it in the right spot. And then finish up that last single crochet that I didn't do yet. I like to do it after. All right. Perfect. Now that we have legs on our shark, it's definitely easier for it to sit up, which is what I like. While you're doing the tail, if you put them more forward, then it has a hard time sitting. So if you do them more outside like that, it leans back like that, which is kind of cute. All right, so that's what we look like from the front. Cute little legs, arms. It's a happy shark. All right, let's get the top fin on, and then we'll get the tail fins on. So with the top fin, because it is angled, you have to pick which angle you want it to go. So once we get it attached, I'll show you what I mean. So with it looking like this, where it's kind of curved right there, you can either have it like this, so that that curve is going back. You can turn it this way, so the curve is going forward. It's your shark. You do it how you want it to. I'm gonna do the curve going backwards. And I'm gonna start, this part is gonna end up right. We want it to try and be on that magic ring, but if you want it a little more forward, you can do more forward as well. I want it just on that magic to end right there. So that's where we're gonna hold it down. And it's gonna be right there. It takes some practice to get used to doing that, but you will figure it out. Again, utilize your tools. Use the needle to help hold it in place. Just you do you. And it's your shark, so again, if you want your fin sewn on a different way than I'm sewing mine on, whatever you want, if you want to copy how I'm doing it, love it. So you just kind of want to make sure when you're sewing the fin on that you're sewing up in the straightest line as possible. That can be kind of difficult, just because obviously it's hard to sew in a straight line sometimes, but just do the best you can. If you need to do like teeny little zigzags just to help with like everything, you can. But just the straightest line you can. That's how we're sewing it on, because it's our fin. All right. As you can see, my estimates were slightly off because there's our magic ring and I still have a lot left on the fin. So, but that's totally fine. Just means it's bigger than we expected and it takes up more of the shark head, which is actually what I wanted it to do on this one. Sometimes when you're sewing, the stuffing tends to come out a little bit. Just do your best. It's gonna come out no matter what. It's nothing that you did, it's just from the yarn and the needle going through, so just try and get it off, cut it off, whatever, but it's nothing that you're doing, it's just the result of sewing. All right. When we're nearing the end of the shark fin, just remember to go through every single crochet. And then you'll notice it kind of goes in like where it is. That's just obviously from like sewing and stuffing, but as you kind of move it, it goes away, so. All right, last part, we're gonna put our shark face down and we're gonna sew the tail fins on. So normally shark's fins are on the top and the bottom of the tail, so that's how we're gonna do it. But if you want it to be a different way, you can do it a different way. All right, so again, on this first one, I'm gonna start the tip, and it's a little bigger than the actual tail, as you can see. It is like the entire tail right there, which is what we want. It's totally fine. If you want to, you can kind of put it on the end more, but this is what I'm doing. So we're gonna start by hooking it on just at the very, very back of the tail is what we want. If you want to make your tail fins smaller, you can totally make your tail fins smaller too. That's always an option. All right, on this one I'm pulling it through a couple of times, just because the first one was a really short one, but you don't have to. All right, so at this point we've got our first little tail fin on. The second one is going on the bottom of the fin like that, to kind of give it that bottom tail fin. Let's go ahead and grab it. All right, again, I'm starting my piece, or grabbing mine, starting at the very tip of the tail. can be kind of hard to sew these ones on just because the tail is so small. So just do your best to get it through the stitches that you want it. Remember to go through the very last single crochet. Keeps happening. All right. Now that we have our full tail on our land shark, it is time to do all the cute little embellishments on the face. So go ahead and grab your black yarn. This part is very fast, very easy. I'm just going to cut off a small piece of our yarn. And we're making some gills and a little smile for our shark. Add whatever you want, don't add whatever, it doesn't matter to me. I want to see it all anyways. So for the gills, they're going to be going on the white part, and they're going to be going like kind of right where the arms are. So we're going to start right underneath the eye. And so I'm actually going to insert my hook down here at the bottom. And then pull it up to where I want it, leaving a little tail right there. And then we're going to go down right kind of below our half double crochets and double crochets that we did. That's going to be the length, and then pull it up one stitch away from that. And then just kind of pull it tight. And same thing one more time. Oops. And then last time we're going to insert it to where it's supposed to go and then bring it out where we inserted the black yarn. Okay. Now we have those 3 gills on that side. We're going to do the same thing on this side. I'm using the same piece of yarn, but if you want to cut it, reattach it, you can. So put it back in through that same hole that we went in the first time. Bring it out right there. So it's going to be right in line with the eye, right on the white. And then we are going down right below those half double crochets. Bringing it back up. You have to kind of manipulate it a little bit. You have to kind of squish it, but totally fine. We've got plenty to do that with. Then same thing on the last one. You're going to pull it down to its spot. And then again, you're pulling it out right where it went in, where we inserted the black the first time. 3 gills, 3 gills. Ooh. Go ahead and cut the needle off. And then these are in the exact same hole they went in to the same one. So we're just going to tie a knot and it's going to disappear into the head. It's just basically tying a knot around stuffing. And then we're going to insert our hook. And pull the tails, and they're going to completely disappear. There's not a black dot anywhere. But now our shark has adorable little gills. So you can stop right there if you want. You can give him a smile. We're going to give him a smile real quick. So I'm going to get my black yarn back out just so I can show you guys how to give him a smile if you want. So grab the black yarn. If you want to do it connected to the gills, you totally can. You'll just need a really long piece of black instead of multiple small pieces of black. So we're going to kind of start it the exact same way that we started. And we're just going to stick it in, and we're going to pull it up. Obviously, we're going into the center. Whoops. We're going into the center of the eyes. And we're going, so I'm about 2 stitches, as you can see, away from the eye. And we're about 2 rows into the white. And then I'm going to bring it over about 2 stitches from the eye. And then we're going to bring it out right there. This is where the tail went in. My thumb is in between it. It's like only a row down. And then you're just going to take it and you're going to loop it under the black of the smile, or the line of the smile. It's going to go under it. And that's how you're going to get the actual smile. And then you're going to insert back in to that same hole. And you're going to come back out where we put the yarn in the first time. And then adjust the stuffing. Cut it off. Again, it's in the exact same, they're in the same hole, so they're just gonna tie in a nice little knot and disappear into the head. You might have to clean some stuffing off the shark. It just happens when you're sewing, especially when you're embroidering. All right. And then obviously you're just going to kind of adjust the smile and the stuffing and everything in there. But now you have your adorable land shark with all of our little stuff on it. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I would love to see your finished creations. So please share them on social media and tag us at Okie Dokies Crochet so I can see. We'll see y'all next time.